YouTube comments from a video titled, Your Monthly Dose of Good News March. Part 1.
At good__news wrote,
Want to restore the planet's ecosystems and see your impact in monthly videos? The first 100 people to join Planet Wild with my code GOOD3 will get the first month for free only. planetwild.com. If you want to get to know them better first, check out their mission Digging Earth Smiles. planetwild.com sponsored. Thank you all for your support on our videos. Which good news story was your favorite from this episode? I'm personally really excited about the advancements in cancer research and the fact that the EU is making huge trade deals. Short update on the EU-Mercosur trade deal. A few days ago, Paraguay became the final South American country to approve the deal.
At 0_Dirgulak_083 wrote,
I needed this like I need air and food. We need more good news channels. I hate how bad news sells more. I don't want to live in misery anymore.
At Sinek422 wrote,
Mercosur will bring destruction to the European farmer, choking them until they die. And later, when the cheap food from South America will be the only supplier, they will control the price.
At C_VS wrote,
The United States now have no leg to stand on with their refusal to adopt renewables, with India and China both getting their energy from more and more renewable sources.
At Ultimatinini wrote,
I like how some countries are benefiting from Trump becoming president regarding trade. He slaps on tariffs in the hopes he gets more money, but people source for cheaper and often better quality products. I also love how Australia stepped in right away when gun rights were abused. The US has a ways to go.
At Johnson of Thunder 1026 wrote,
Some of this good news is only good from certain perspectives, and as long as politicians and money lenders continue to treat the earth as their privately owned resources to trade before anyone else can live in good health and comforts, there can never not be fighting between nations, nor no haves vs have-nots. It is a corrupt system born from inequity from the get-go.
At Mr. Banana 2370 wrote,
Sorry, bud, but gun laws are bad for innocents, since it takes the right to defend themselves away and leaves the criminals with more guns. Because lawbreakers, take care about laws.
At Nathaniel Tech wrote,
I'm happy about closer cooperation between EU and Mercosur, but at the same time I have some concerns. Being profitable for companies is not the same as being beneficial to the countries. Also, it's more sustainable environmentally and financially to support local producers and to eat food that's in season. Liberal policies to free up trade has always been solely to the benefit of the capital class.
At Gray Jordan 941 wrote,
I know I'm late, but thank you. I have insanely scared for world lately. And this plus talking to someone has really made me see how much good there is, and that the world is anything but doomed. Keep up the good news. We all need it from time to time. Purple hearts, cause it's my fav color.
At Rakshatacing 5785 wrote,
India just reached nuclear fast breeder criticality. One step away from getting clean energy for 400 years. The Iran-US war is pushing EV purchase as well. Also, not only rhinos check out Fontara. It's not a zoo. Human entry is barred. It's a safe haven for animals. They're being rescued from enslavement and provided all kinds of therapy by an Indian billionaire's son. Just filling in more.
Alamatu Ait Moaidusia Retu wrote,
My mom was identified with stage 4 terminal brain cancer about 4 months ago. She's currently in the hospital as I write this, and the doctors gave her 2 more months to live. The cancer sits directly on the back part of her brain that affects moving, so I can't get a hug back.
At I Had Humans. Thank you wrote.
Hey, thanks. I'm doing my thesis, Adam. Finance is real bad and everything else is. World feels like falling cause of the PDFs and billionaires and stuff. Thanks. This is Hope.
Something about video games wrote.
You deserve a subscribe. News outlets nowadays only shows when bad things happen. Or if it's good things, it's like the least important good thing to exist, like the royal family just birthed a baby boy, or minimum wage now increased by $1 a year, like who cares? I'd rather listen to some news like this new way to revolutionize AI. It now uses 99% less water, or this animal, only 3 in the world got saved from extinction.
Adasharakmo wrote.
My favorite is wind and solar overtaking fossil. Yay. I would like to see some good news from Russia. We need them like no one else does.
Adamte6540 wrote.
All these new cancer treatments suddenly being released after my godmother dies, they really held the back and only released them to distract us. But at least people can finally get better help now.
Paul Hansen 870 wrote.
This is not good news. This is liberal news. You just announced that local farms' jobs within European countries are going to be lost. That there is decreased freedom in Australia, and now the FBI can do increased spying on the populace. This is a widening oppressive state. The only companies that benefit from global trade are large corporations that carry that capability. The average citizen is going to see their jobs stolen and the wages decreased due to another country with a weaker currency and less legal restrictions being able to manufacture or farm with far less restrictions. Disappointing news at best.
Ednei Tetherat F8H wrote.
I will say with the gun license, I don't know if everyone can agree that that's good news. Especially that you glossed over the anti-hate laws, which are removing their freedom of speech to the point where they're going to become like the UK, or if you say something offensive about the government, you can go to jail, which is how it's been used there. So it could be a big fan of all these other things, but you know that's not a good one.
Jokwinjo Joker wrote.
I don't think Mercosur is a good thing as a whole. Take as an example my granddad. He is a farmer in Spain and he grows oranges, which are very low priced already. 69 cents/1 kg. This agreement will only make local European agriculture more difficult than it already is and make the already struggling local farmers to quit selling agricultural products because it's simply not profitable enough. And as consumers, we will probably not beneficiate of the agreement at all because the price will probably stay the same for the consumers.
Silky Smooth 9795 wrote.
Mercosur EU deal is terrible not just for farmers, but for EU population in general. We deserve to eat fresh, locally grown food. Not to mention the negative effects on the planet caused by deforestation and transport emissions.
KIC Canroll 666 wrote.
That part about weapon bans makes me sad, especially that people consider it a good thing. As a hunter from Germany, who went off a ton of months-long background checks and lost basic rights that are even given to known criminals for the official sake of fund safety, let me tell you that many of that new restrictions have absolutely no impact on safety. Criminals with illegal firearms that do things already illegal and already willing to do a legal thing like getting firearms the non-legal way are not impacted even a fraction as much as legal citizens that may need that gun to hunt and keep the balance of wildlife and forests. Maybe look up how gun incidents in Germany with several times more restrictive laws than neighbors like Switzerland or Austria. Most people who know nothing about firearms want to be something done about it and don't care about people who need them. But this is not a good thing. If a majority of people controlled by their fear do more bad things to people without any wrongdoing whatsoever because they want to do something, even if it does almost nothing to the bad guys that are the official target.
Taxibidan wrote,
The EU. Mercosur and India deals are not good news. They are worst possible news for EU. Mercosur 1 means that food that has toxins, carcinogens and steroids, no real oversight on those from EU. Products that also are cheaper than homegrown production that will undercut farmers in EU countries. India deal means increased migration for EU from India, worsening the matter in the EU. Also, it means undermining all production in EU by letting cheaper production for India. Those two deals will destroy lives in EU. So it is not good news, it is terrible news that will worsen the lives in EU in the future.
Nakazatojl wrote,
The Mercosur deal with EU is a lie that will never happen, as EU doesn't want to give an inch to Brazil especially. More likely for us to make a deal with China than them.
Mutant Gaming wrote,
You don't know how much light and motivated I feel after watching this. Making me question the previous and current news channels if they making us sick by sharing bad news.
Toslin wrote,
1040. That will be bad for the European farmers because the EU force the European farmers to follow unfair rules, while that South American company is safe from the rules. It's more bad news than good news.
Classic Lover 2129 wrote,
As a French person, my biggest concern about Mercosur isn't that much about the economic side of it, but rather on the health one. We have very strict regulations inside the EU for everything, but that isn't respected in other countries, and that's where lies the problem with Mercosur to me.
Albic Zero wrote,
The problem with the EU ex-Mercosur agreement is that the EU has insane regulations on European agriculture, while the South America has none of it, and importing their food will be bad for Europe in the long run, as long as Europe makes it harder for their own farmers than for the foreign page.
Zadarit wrote,
Alert, I'm from Spain, and like many people across Europe, I think the Mercosur EU trade deal looks like a beautiful candy full of problems inside. Here in the EU, we have very strict regulations on food safety and the use of chemicals and pesticides, all to protect consumers. But now the EU wants to import food from countries that don't follow the same strict standards, which makes it feel like a lottery at the supermarket. Sure, prices might go down, but cheaper doesn't always mean better quality, especially if products aren't as tightly checked as EU ones. I'm not saying that all South American food is bad, not at all, but the lack of equal regulations could kill local farming jobs here while making the market unfair. We've already seen something similar happening with imports from Morocco, especially with fruits and vegetables. Luckily, the other news is really good. I find
Alias 1113 wrote,
The states about lung cancer since 1991 makes me so happy. I had an aunt who was 41 in 1991 when she died from lung cancer. I was 8 years old at the time, and the loss deeply affected my entire family, so we are always fighting for better survival odds for lung cancer. My aunt may have had a fighting chance had she gotten diagnosed in 2026 than she did in 1991. Also, yes, she was a smoker. She started smoking when she was 9 years old.
Dayslow wrote,
Hi, I love this channel. All this good news is really heartening, but as far as I'm concerned, the Mercosur agreement isn't a good thing. In France, there have been numerous protests by farmers against this agreement, and that's only natural. We have a duty to protect the people in this line of work. They literally feed us.
Iliaster wrote,
Yay, BS. Pharma companies still have not released cure for cancer,
nor they ever will. Why? Well, because current world's god is money. Money is your god. If you have a cancer, just go ultra fasting for days and use anti-parasite medicine. Don't bother with chemo, which literally kills you.
A Dandafrican man wrote,
1435. When will people understand that criminals won't have to go through background check or gun stores to buy deadly weaponry? Banning these weapons from legal means only means it's harder to legally acquire weapons to fight back. Criminals already planning on doing illegal activities anyway. What makes you think banning gun gonna stop them from just getting the guns illegally anyway?
that the Saiho wrote,
I don't understand how the EU-Mercosur deal is good news, THA. It just means European farmers will have completely unfair competition that doesn't have to comply with EU safety regulations, and consumers will have carcinogens and insect-killing pesticides in their food. The deals previously broke down notably because the EU required the incoming food to comply with their regulations.
Edutkarshgaben K3S wrote,
I looked at the thumbnail of this video and saw the word cancer and upward trend, thinking to myself, another thing to worry about. Then, I realized what the title really meant on a second look. Thank you for spreading positivity. I didn't think twice before subscribing. We live in a world where negativity sells, and optimism is hopeless and viewed as uninteresting. Thank you again for bringing us news that uplifts people's faith in humanity.
At WRV_1313 wrote,
This is a good channel as it keeps the hope alive, but please use the correct map of India. Don't show Kashmir and Arunachal Pradesh as different from India. They are integral part of India.
At Labgecko wrote,
Just a tip from a PSYOPs expert. Don't show the actual speeches from harmful people like US President #47. Despite your well-written script, it can confuse people into thinking he was instrumental into making those trade agreements happen. Instead, just show his text in a serif font to make it easier to read and less emotive. Highlight or increase size of the important parts. If you must show his image, don't show it covering more than 1/3 of the screen size. These tricks are not to manipulate people into thinking that thing is actually bad. They just give that part of the story equal weight instead of giving too much focus to them in people's minds. Thanks for all that you do on this channel.
at Horatiovk wrote,
Thanks for this news. With all wars triggered for those two countries, we need to remember the rest of the world is still doing great things for the future.
Asopi Goodness wrote,
1547 kinda, but buybacks don't work at America at least, and most of those guns aren't ones used for violence. Nobody is gonna do a shooting with a machine gun.
At Millerad Babic 8730 wrote,
Man, do I need this channel nowadays. With everything wrong happening right now, this is like a breath of fresh air after choking on fumes the whole day.
At Luxor_Caliber wrote,
Can I give you a hug, man? Thanks, technically good bad news. Ubisoft is doing large cuts still. Finally, a company getting their consequences of their actions. Just hope they turn it around and become a gamers first company instead of investor first.
At My Hard Dixonsider 337 wrote,
Damn, except for the cancer thing, the rest was just stupid. With one being bad news. Like Australia, having stricter gun laws is bad for the people. Good news would be they can have their guns back. Rights for insects is gay as fuck. Fucking shit news. You want good news. We killed some ayatollahs. We killed some terrorists. We won some gold medals. Cancer is losing. I bought a new gun.
Fucking hell yeah. You're so damn gay.
At Alan August 1932 wrote,
Funny how the tariffs of the orange tyrant just knocked down bigly in our Supreme Court have spurred other nations to drop tariffs. Dear world, as much as our resistance is fighting to remove him, we can't help but note your nations dealing directly with each other is good news. Though we've been accused of being the world's police, you're now seeing all you can do without us. I for one am thrilled about that. You don't need our involvement, you don't need our permission, you don't need our money. Fabulous. I remember 45 years ago when our first video president fussed at Europe for supporting NATO with words, but not with appropriate funding, and withheld US money from the UN until all European nations coughed up their portion, like we were supposed to. Believe you couldn't get the Rothschilds and old money aristocrats to pay their fair share into your treasuries. There is a saying, for those who love God, all things work together unto good. Though we suffer greatly from Donnie the Dumper and fight him now with hundreds of lawyers winning case after case against him, it's good news to notice someone somewhere on the planet is getting something good out of all this.
David JM3EZ wrote,
Horrible and untrue video, I am sorry, but nearly everything this video covers is insignificant and sometimes downright bad news that are presented as good ones. Cancer being less frequent and being more treatable is excellent. Medical advancements went and are still developing, which is the only significant good thing shared in this video. Everything else is either not very significant but good or just bad. EU still being a thing is horrible, as it slaughtered the countries it is supposed to unite and protect. Culturally, financially, and opposing the without an actual vote of the people to such negative changes, especially limiting free speech, which is absolutely disgusting. EU did enforce some repair laws and things like Type C, which is good. But despite that, they bring much more harm than good when they limit free speech, jail citizens for expressing concerns. Thousands of women raped, crime is up, cities look filthy, prices are up, and people who open their mouth are sent to jail. EU needs to be dismantled as it is rotten to the core. People need proper and uncorrupt governments, not that trash. As well as the horrible Australia's worst gun laws. The horribly corrupt government there is proceeding to make the country worse, and also starts making people defenseless before making more outrageous laws that will ruin Australia completely. Using news outlets like Al Jazeera, CNN, or BBC and affiliated as a source, without doing any fact checks or checking for very well-needed context, just makes your content unreliable. You're welcome to use any type of news and quote everyone, but you gotta verify the claims and see the other side of the story to provide actual, unbiased, correct, and accurate news.
Fake You Real wrote,
The Europe-India-South America deal is not good. We don't want their unregulated meat. Europe has the safest food in the world due to long list of prohibited chemicals and unnatural add-ons to the food.
Dice Bamboo wrote,
That Mercosur deal is one of the worst for European agriculture and shifting pollution to the global south. Anything but good news. Be mindful of what you consider to be positive, because it would be the same as praising Primark for their affordable clothing.
Assassinsari wrote,
Brother, believe me, some data in India nowadays is being presented for show only. Please have sources from more than a few sources for correct measures. And news, however good work, keep it up.
At TechnoX369 wrote,
Everything is fine, bro, but you should update your geographical knowledge about Indian geography. I mean the map of India, both Arunachal Pradesh and Kashmir are an integral part of India.
The Soul Void wrote,
Finally, something nice, however, not to be the grumpy one out there, is the green energy got ahead of fossil energy in EU because they built more green energy sources and even in the absolute numbers outrun it. Or is it because they've cut fossil energy production and then the green energy got ahead?
At Daniel Gladish 1691 wrote,
You go, Freddie! My wife 57 ERs, and I look forward to these posts every month, and we look forward to your stories of the year summary. They help us stay optimistic in our senior years that there is hope for kids and grandkids. Thanks so much, Dr. Botany.
At Rohit Rawat F7G wrote,
But if we defeat cancer, doesn't it mean we can even extend human life to 300 years? As if we can replace barred cells, we can also replace weakening alter cells, no.
At Darges 96 wrote,
I add that in these days, there are a new combination of drug, that fulzarasib cetuximab, that expand the survivability on average of 1 year of who have lung cancer, with a good tolerance for the patient.
At Shivam Kushwaha 1061 wrote,
Well, I believe Indian newses are just fake as everyone is corrupt here. In a state, maybe Tamil Nadu, a forest officer reported wood smuggling. He was transferred, and moreover, the minister who was responsible for smuggling was made into forest minister. So we are fucked either way.
At Audiovisual H2U wrote,
The EU-India/Mercosur trade deal is good in terms of economic growth, the eternal god, but not really on other fronts. While European farmers and cattle barons struggle with EU regulations on quality, safety, and prices, Indian and South American farmers don't have such regulations. Those governments don't apply such safety concerns. The deal is really just about countering American foodstuffs and not really about the welfare about either Europeans, South Americans, or Indians.
At Thomas 191 wrote,
I love this channel. The news is largely a purposeful attempt to activate our nervous systems and stress, because attention equals money. The effect of this channel definitely goes to the parasympathetic system and reduces stress. I actually feel this happen.
At Abolio Kazana 7022 wrote,
So will the India deal mean that India will stop their scammers from ripping the elderly and naive off? Or will they be allowed to keep doing that? Considering how incredibly woke the EU is, probably nothing will happen.
At Neumann Alive wrote,
The big deal India-EU and the smaller deal South America. EU are so great. Finally, news are less about atomization of countries and more about free trade.
At Apoceanarchy wrote,
Normally, I don't watch good news channels, as I worry they're sloppy stuff. That's AI-read and misunderstood info people are parroting to just keep ourselves sane. So this is a nice channel to keep myself from going actually mad. I definitely didn't like seeing old R at Pissed Mango Mussolini even briefly, but I hope all those trade deals come through to make everything easier/cheaper globally.
At Just Explore wrote,
Day 5 of asking strangers to be my friend. Got 2 minutes? Hi, Gopal here, a teenager, and I'm introvert and pretty shy. And why I'm telling you this. Because I have very small friend circle due to my shyness and hesitation in public area, but I really love when any stranger talk to me, and I always wish that my friend circle might become bigger than now. So, I grabbed my phone and used YouTube to connect different and unique personalities throughout the world. And, dude, I would love to be your friend. Will you be mine too? Without any reason or cause, just pure destiny or whatever you call it.
At Aryan Parada 5998 wrote,
The Baya Weaver by Shade and House Sparrow Shatia are very iconic birds in the Indian state of Odisha, but they were almost extinct in the 2000s. Fortunately, now they are back in my place thanks to conservation efforts with a population of 11,000 plus and 70,000 plus.
Cow Haircut wrote,
I don't know if it was the rhino or the elephant, but they're looking at making their horns mildly radioactive to stop poaching instead of cutting them off. Apparently, it wouldn't harm the animal. I hope younger generations of Chinese stop some of the ridiculous elements of Chinese medicine.
@_Desiree wrote,
I spent hours watching Epstein videos yesterday. Sent me into a depression that I was afraid I wouldn't be able to crawl out of for a long time. This channel has done so much for me in redirecting my attention to weights fucked about the world to weights red. So, seriously, thank you. I have also become a member of the Planet Wild too, because of your videos. You are helping tip the balance of a purely negative filter over to a positive one. And I can't appreciate it more.
@Adhale_Kiliania wrote,
First time hearing about Mercosur. Heck, as I'm writing this, the word Mercosur is getting the red wiggly underline. I'm from EU, and as far as I'm concerned, the deal is bad for people in my country. But hopefully, it will increase their quality of life more than it will reduce our. The cost of living there is cheap. That means any money they get is worth much more than it is here.
@DavidMensigamerCH wrote,
Great news, but EU committing again in nuclear power news from recent summit in France. With favorable financing and by standardizing regulations, should have been among the best news off March. This seriously has the potential to help us reach decarbonization goals together with renewables. I believe what came out of this summit will truly shape the better future we got ahead.
@NinjaKiwa Games 5418 wrote,
Bees gaining rights? Layers fighting for the bees? Where have I hear that? According to all known laws of aviation, there is no way a bee should be able to fly. Its wings are too small to get its fat little body off the ground. The bee, of course, flies anyway because bees don't care what humans think is impossible. Yellow, black. Yellow, black. Yellow, black. Yellow, black. Ooh, black and yellow. Let's shake it up a little. Barry, breakfast is ready. Coming. Hang on a second. Hello, Barry? Adam? Can you believe this is happening? I can't. I'll pick you up. Looking sharp. Use the stairs. Your father paid good money for those. Sorry. I'm excited. Here's the graduate. We're very proud of you, son. A perfect report card. All B's. Very proud. Ma, I got a thing going here. You got lint on your fuzz. Ow. That's me. Wave to us. We'll be in row 118,000. Bye. Barry. I told you. Stop flying in the house. Hey, Adam. Hey, Barry. Is that fuzz gel? A little. Special day, graduation. Never thought I'd make it. 3 days grade school, 3 days high school. Those were awkward. 3 days college. I'm glad I took a day and hitchhiked around the hive. You did come back different. Hi, Barry. Artie. Growing a mustache. Looks good. Hear about Frankie. Yeah. You going to the funeral? No, I'm not going. Everybody knows. Sting someone. You die. Don't waste it on a squirrel. Such a hothead. I guess he could have just gotten out of the way. I love this incorporating an amusement park into our day. That's why we don't need vacations. Boy, quite a bit of pomp under the circumstances. Well, Adam, today we are men. We are. Be men. Amen. Hallelujah. students, faculty, distinguished bees, please welcome Dean Buswell. Welcome, new Hive City graduating class of 915. That concludes the ceremonies and begins your career at Honex Industries. Will we pick our job today? I heard it's just orientation. Heads up. Here we go. Keep your hands and antennas inside the tram at all times. Wonder what it'll be like. A little scary. Welcome to Honex, a division of Honesco and a part of the Hexagon Group. This is it. Wow. We know that you, as a bee, have worked your whole life to get to the point where you can work for your whole life. Honey begins when our valiant pollen jocks bring the nectar to the hive. Our top secret formula is automatically color corrected, scent adjusted and bubble contoured into this soothing sweet syrup with its distinctive golden glow you know as honey. That girl was hot. She's my cousin. She is. Yes, we're all cousins. Right. You're right. At Honex, we constantly strive to improve every aspect of bee existence. These bees are stress testing a new helmet technology. What do you think he makes? Not enough. Here we have our latest advancement, the Krellman. What does that do? Catches that little strand of honey that hangs after you pour it. Saves us millions. Can anyone work on the Krellman? Of course. Most bee jobs are small ones. But bees know that every small job, if it's done well, means a lot. But choose carefully because you'll stay in the job you pick for the rest of your life. The same job the rest of your life? I didn't know that. What's the difference? You'll be happy to know that bees, as a species, haven't had one day off in 27 million years. So you'll just work us to death? We'll sure try. Wow, that blew my mind. What's the difference? How can you say that? One job forever? That's an insane choice to have to make. I'm relieved. Now we only have to make one decision in life. But, Adam, how could they never have told us that? Why would you question anything? We're bees. We're the most perfectly functioning society on Earth. You ever think maybe things work a little too well here? Like what? Give me one example. I don't know. But you know what I'm talking about. Please clear the gate. Royal Nectar Force on approach. Wait a second. Check it out. Hey, those are pollen jocks. Wow, I've never seen them this close. They know what it's like outside the hive. Yeah, but some don't come back.
At Bujin 1977 wrote,
My mother was diagnosed with myeloma in 2015 and was given 8 to 10 years. She's still going at almost 11 years. And while she'll never be free of it, and her treatments over the years have robbed her of an ability to lead a normal life, she's still doing very well.
At Steve 2 wrote,
Just imagine if the news always had a section where half the time was devoted to positive stories. So simple to implement, yet so impossible in our world.
Charles XC7HB wrote,
The problem with gun laws, as with many rights, will be slowly taken away if you let them, and that is a problem. Because the government shouldn't be taking away our rights, as once they take an inch, they will try to go further and further until you don't have rights anymore. I mean, they have banned people under 16 from using the internet and requiring people to use an ID which has already been leaked, and they can't do anything about it, except to go through the government process to get things changed so that no one gets something under their name like a credit card. It also doesn't help that it is a great way to spy on someone, and I am not okay with that.
A matricator wrote,
I'm from Australia, and I can tell you, THE solution ISNOTTO, take away THE right FO, are self-defense taking guns away from licensed citizens. The simple solution is to look at Florida, where armed robbery is easily solved by the citizens themselves. Put the right for self-defense back into good people's hands. ALETMEBE clear. If you want to take away people's right for self-defense and call that good news, you're a lesser form of life than a feral dog.
at MaxSec46 wrote,
Nothing like another oil crisis to make us thankful for all the progress being made in renewable energy. Hopefully, the next U.S. administration will walk back all the ridiculous policy changes made by this one and encourage other lagging nations to follow suit.
a Kiwi the Retro Gal wrote,
This was really nice to see after bad news warning. Rec Room announced they were shutting down. I'm glad to see others getting a break from the doom and gloom too.
at Who's Mr. wrote,
No sugar equals significantly less cancer. Get rid of vegetable oil and seed oils and refined carbs, and you should be in the clear for life. If it's something your great-grandparents could eat, don't eat it yourself.
a Grunel wrote,
Don't know where and how they treat cancer better, but my mother died from myeloma last year, and there was nothing that could help her. Maybe there is treatment, but it seems that haven't come to countries like Russia or medical system doesn't want to help people.
a Bing 1 Google 0 wrote,
Guns don't kill people. People kill people. The citizens are now less able to defend against tyranny now. The Brazilian guy that commented here makes a great point on the topic as well. Other than that, great job with the video. These are things that I wish to see more of on major news outlets.
at LCZ 4033 wrote,
I want to express that this ISNOT good news, the Free Trade Agreements, FTAs. The perspective presented in this news is not only Eurocentric or from rich countries, but it is alarmingly ignorant. In Latin America and the Caribbean, FTAs are a continuous source of conflicts and social opposition. Many realities and studies confirm and denounce the negative social, economic, cultural, and environmental effects that the signing of these treaties has represented for the region. With the liberalization of investments, business monopolies and the model based on the extraction of natural resources are strengthened, with enormous socio-environmental impacts that, in turn, perpetuate the structural causes of poverty, misery, and unemployment. Or, sustainable family farming is sacrificed and consequently the guarantee of healthy, diverse, and safe food, etc.
at Bananagy Original wrote,
The Australia one isn't good emo since criminals don't care about laws. That recent shooter used the system to get guns, sure, but the other guy had an illegal firearm. And it doesn't become safer for the average person since, like I said, a criminal doesn't care about gun laws. It's just safer for the politicians who have already made laws that criminalize people for speaking their minds. Or they firebomb YouTubers' houses who speak out about said politicians. Look up Friendly Jordies. And they don't have to worry about getting shot for ruining people's lives either. Also, before your soy-filled mind says SC ho show teings, just know they are on the decline because mental health help is on the rise. You wouldn't know because all your news comes from TikTok or Insta. Put gun laws this way. If two kids are playing tennis and one throws a tantrum and starts breaking things with their racket, under gun law logic, you would take away the racket from the kid who didn't do anything, and the raging kid will just find something else to break stuff with. Because you aren't seeing what's making the kid mad. You're just taking away the rackets from everyone and ignoring the core issue. So please go outside and stop doom scrolling and stop thinking the USA is like the stuff you see on your screens.
And now I40 wrote.
Ich bin zu denkbar für den Good News, plus Hoffnungsschimmer dies kommen fast überall zu Kurs. Den bin ist als. Was du Zusammentrag so informative plus erhalten. Hers like en dank für dich plus den Ton.
At the internet Kurd wrote.
I'm only 2 and T5 minutes in, and although I love the idea of good news, I can't let biased reporting go unchecked. For instance, Mercosur is destroying industries in Europe, much like how Europe destroyed the African dairy industry. It's leading to lack of self-sustainability. Also, the lung cancer deaths being tied to fewer smokers? No. Lung cancer itself is actually on a huge rise, despite the number of smokers drastically reducing, indicating other factors at play.
At MatMat9324 wrote.
1210. Mercosur is BD news for Europeans. We've got norms for safety, banning some pesticides to ensure preservation of biodiversity. Mercosur countries are NOT compliant with those, allowing them to produce cheaper products, yes, but that also don't meet the EU standards. That'll lead to consumers getting intoxicated by carcinogenic pesticides or local biodiversity. In France especially, that justifies the Duplom law that reintroduces bee-killing pesticides, for instance. And as if the European farmers weren't in an already bad place because of import/export, they have the highest suicide rate amongst all professions. This will be the last nail in the coffin.
Kyle de Beersven wrote.
Europe could lose jobs to South America due to this trade deal. If employment costs are lower. We saw this with the US's implementation of NAFTA in the 90s. It essentially destroyed the US manufacturing centers across the Midwest.
Jeezer wrote.
Thank you for detailing the controversial part of the Mercosur agreement with EU. When I saw this topic on the intro, I thought, well, that's not really a good news. The main issue is that an EU agricultural worker are already in a really difficult situation. In EU regulations, on top of that, prevent use of a lot pesticides, herbicides, or similar practices to protect the health of consumers and the environment. But imported goods from Mercosur will not have to comply with the same standards, creating an unfair disadvantage for our agricultors, and thus will add pressure to soften our health and environmental protection law to stay competitive. So the result could be either our farmers going bankrupt because of cheap goods or our health and environment will worsen. And the cherry on top is that until now companies in EU were held legally responsible for bad working conditions of employees on their supply chain in countries outside of the EU, but this law is getting targeted by lobbies from the US. So we could get goods made with bad working conditions. I'm not sure how well workers are protected in Mercosur countries, but that could be a concern. Sorry for killing the mood of the channel, but I find it important to talk about. Thanks for making these videos. They are a ray of sunshine in these troubled times.
At Rakataku wrote.
I know this is very rude, but in honest criticism, the accent in these make the videos really unenjoyable. If you got a soft English-speaking voice actor, it would be a lot better. Just like how David Attenborough or Morgan Freeman got so popular for their speaking voice.
At Tori_T_artist wrote.
Honestly, the huge success in renewable energy gives me a lot of hope with the current events surrounding oil right now. America will get with the program, whether we like it or not. Fossil fuels will soon become a negative investment. Money talks.
Ed Rowan's 98 wrote.
1430 in a world of growing authoritarianism from all governments, including the removal of human rights and especially mass surveillance. Strict gun laws anywhere is absolutely not good news. All that does is remove the people's ability to resist authoritarian regimes.
Clashoff 6D wrote.
The EU Mercosur deal is horrible for EU farmers, since their crops won't be sold for enough money for the farmers to make a living wage, since there's crops coming in for cheaper from elsewhere. If it's the same Mercosur deal as I've heard of, but last I heard they weren't going to do it. And EDK, how to write it, just wrote Mercosur since it sounds correct.
Kostub 8B70 wrote.
Love the message, but Arunachal Pradesh region of India is not disputed, neither occupied. It is a part of India. There are no Chinese forces in Arunachal Pradesh region.
Atleton 3912 wrote.
12. Your bias is showing again. Hating on Trump and thinking a trade deal that not only threatens all the agricultural workers in the EU, also introduces agricultural products to EU markets that have very little regulations for production, is a huge problem. It's not just about the farmers in the EU losing market share due to the price differences. It has a lot to do with the actual product coming into the country, getting to bypass many health, agricultural good practices entering the EU. If it was just a price discrepancy, then EU could appease the farmers much easier, but there's no way that letting lower quality or potentially harmful produce to enter the EU is a good thing.
At Harpingfish wrote.
1256, of course. This type of bureaucracy is why Europe is such a pathetic joke nowadays. If a perfect cancer cure came out right now, it'd take them decades just to deliberate.
At Paul Jackson 171 wrote.
The trade deal case is iffy. On the one hand would be great in the here and now with many in the EU struggling thus, with cost of living having lower cost of goods from SA, assuming corporations don't price gouge to maximize profits, and instead pass on the cost savings to the EU consumer, as well as many in SA benefiting from better or so much as any employ, and the add-on bonus of improved access to premium products in S. A long hold, though, can magnify risk, be it highly agrarian-dependent EU countries taking a hit to their cash flowing, and if not to pivot to different product market, then likely to have firms go bankrupt. Even if not particularly agrarian-dependent for income, in the case of supply chain disruptions, COVID lockdown, trade halting during tariffs trade war, proxy wars including the tactic of state-sponsored pirates, terrorist groups blocking off trade routes by blowing up commercial vessels or states even stealing commercial vessels from those warring with, canals being blocked off with accidents or climate change impacts as with the Suez or Panama. Heck, even the Yangtze River in China with behemoth as it is drying up in August 2022 from climate change, resulting in ever-increasing in frequency. If with no domestic local alternative for food supply as they close down, can genuinely run the risk of people in the EU starving for a prolonged enough disruption. EU countries could maybe further subsidize local firms already do, hefty bill on taxes, or run hefty stockpiles and pray that rationing during such disruption be enough. Also as mentioned, lax or non-existent production and labor laws in SA compared to the EU, assuming that firms partaking in this trade don't simply price gouge for maximized profits resulting in a case, all too similar to phone assemblers in China or cobalt miners in the DRC. Maybe instead those partaking run it under a fair trade premise and with magnified visibility to quality of life and ecosystem leading up to the consumer X. On your coffee bag from SA, scan a QR code and get to see who farmed where, how minding EU regulations on pesticide and herbicide and etc. conditions livable for the area. And the valley eats us from clearly still ecologically sound post-mass farming.
Ephinias_Minacero wrote,
3 of Earth's continents in January of 2026 have already been able to produce more power with wind and solar than with fossil fuel, even though the orange idiot is ranting, raving, and steering us closer to a world war, crashing world trade and increasing oil prices. I cannot believe it. Maybe. We mere humans are not doomed.
At Magic Mason 1000 wrote,
I wanted to add some insight at 5:05 since I've done a small bit of research into the Los Cedros cloud forest in my own time. Small correction about Ecuador. They introduced the rights of nature not just into their law, but into their full-on constitution back when it was reformed in 2008, not 2022. So, Ecuador has actually been ahead of the curve on the rights of nature for quite some time. The Los Cedros situation was one of the major recent examples of those rights being granted. What happened was that a few companies were granted mining permits in 2017, but the court re-examined the top-tier system permits in 2021 and ruled that giving those permits violated the rights of nature and revoked them to protect the forest.
And Matisvav wrote,
Shout out from one of the many people that have benefited from better cancer treatments. Got off chemo last fall. We'll be having checkups for 5 years now, but I feel splendid. And my dad, a retired surgeon, said during my treatment that he was impressed with all the new technology, even compared to when he was active a decade ago, that made my journey more effective and less painful. Blessings to you all.
At Timley Boyles a 1B2C3J3K wrote,
I always love all of your good news stories. Today, I was happy to see your good news stories about huge trade deals between Europe and other countries. Maybe one day, far, far in the future, you will make a good news story about my country, the USA, having learned a few lessons about being one of many nations comprising one COMUNUN. Hope eternal.
Texa 8 wrote,
What's bad news is your map at 007. This part is and always has been a part of India. I'm from that state you disrespected in the map, and my last 5 generations have been Indian. Stop with this communist China propaganda unless it was an accident, in which case please do correct it in the future.
At Potato von Sputsworth wrote,
Thanks for making the distinction that it was 0 rhino deaths from illegal hunting. Most folks don't realize it, but there is a legal and moral method of hunting some endangered species, like rhinos. See, there's a problem with some old, impotent male rhinos killing younger males and females during mating seasons. This puts heavy strain on the already at-risk rhino population. So conservation orgs mark the male rhino and do fundraising auctions where hunters bid for the opportunity to hunt it. This is a win-win for everyone involved. However, the hunters generally have to keep themselves anonymous. Otherwise, they will be targeted by years of outrage from people who don't understand the nuances of the situation.
At Kalinegertson 2117 wrote,
Great news about reduction in poaching. Great progress in cancer treatment. Although fewer people are smoking, a lot of people are vaping, which is just as bad. Hope Chinese medicine stops using animal parts. Amazonian bees have legal protection, amazing. And sharks too. High Seas Treaty is groundbreaking, but unfortunately hard to enforce. African smiles can be very effective. Hope Brazil and EU are able to resolve their free trade issues. Good news about solar power, hopefully battery storage continues to improve.
As Stephanie Michelle Fox wrote,
The only good thing their tariffs did was help the world work together better and get over issues holding back unified trades worldwide and open new channels for countries to work together. Problem is it left states in bad shape. Wish they'd learn and open their minds to proper trade and come to table with common grounds for better good for all as well.
De Parlin's Astronomy wrote,
Mercosur deal will put European farmers in direct competition with South American farmers, who do not adhere to the same standards at all. This is a form of unfair competition that will harm people that are already struggling a lot. And customers won't see their prices changes. Only major distributors will benefit from that deal by increasing their margin. So in short, the richest will become even more richer when the rest of the population will lose out. This is not a good news at all.
At Risikes the Aggregate 2205 wrote,
I love positive news. Could you talk more about workers' rights and other things help us working middle class like the Greens winning in Denton and Gorton?
At Zaxage 1129 wrote, I don't think trading with India is good. They use chems that are banned and proven harmful, degrading our food by a lot, so no, that's bad news, not good news. At Raindance 14 wrote,
Man being an American right now is difficult. Everywhere seems to be on an upward trend, and yet my country seems happy to stab itself in the chest and claim it is winning. I voted against this orange menace 3 times now, and we still ended up here. At a minimum, I've started contributing to an activist platform supporting local progressive candidates to hopefully rid ourselves of the Republicans wherever we can. Maybe we'll start featuring more on this channel in time.
At Fontangen wrote,
Thanks to the traitor Ursula von der Leyen and her gang, the EU will now import the majority of its energy and food. 450 million people unable to feed themselves. Corrupt politicians,